Welcome to another episode of Country Boy Gas Garage. In this video, we're introducing a new channel project vehicle. Well, and from the thumbnail, you probably already know what it is. So let's go.
The beauty of the Chevy Shape 4 59. The brawn of the Task Force line, now wedded to bring you the exciting El Camino, Chevrolet's all-new El Camino. Look. El Camino, the most beautiful thing ever built to shoulder a load. Chevrolet's El Camino, trim, handsome, and yet so very practical for your hauling needs. Passenger car interiors, every new Chevy comfort and convenience, nearly every Chevy option, including your choice of engines, V8s, or the 6 that puts more miles back into gallons. A new breed, but a thoroughbred Chevrolet. The all-new, all-beautiful El Camino for 1959 at your Chevrolet dealers now.
That's right, guys. Right behind this door is a 59 El Camino. Now, I'm pretty excited about bringing this one on the channel, so let's go take a look. Yeah, and here she is. Or there she is. There you can see some, or maybe there's some of it. Oh. Alright, guys. Well, I'm a little embarrassed about the mess. And this place is a disaster, but like most people's projects, it becomes storage space. And that's what's happened here. Well, there's a 1959 Chevy El Camino sitting under all this stuff. Now, I've been sitting on this one for about 5 years. And, well, I'd like to take a closer look at it and show you guys what we're working with and kind of give you some backstory. But I'm going to have to get this cleaned off and get this shed cleaned out a little bit here. See if I can expose this a little bit more. And not only is it covered and stuff, but it's got a bed full of parts and tools. And I've got other cabinets and stuff around here that I was going to put up here in the shop. I also got the doorway boarded up there, and I have to pull that down to get this thing to move at all. There's not much space in here, but I'm going to go ahead and get the GoPro set up, put it on time-lapse, and start cleaning this place up. Once we get it cleaned up a bit, I'll be able to show you the El Camino a little better. So let's go. All right, guys, check her out. Now, I know she's far from mint, but definitely a worthy candidate to fix and get back on the road. I know she's got lots of rust and she's got her fair share of dents and dings, but she's all here. Any of the trim that you see missing, I've got in the bed, or there's a couple up there in the rafters as well. But it's all here. All the glass, all the lights. The motor and the transmission are out of it, but I have them. The motor that I have isn't the original one to this car, but it came with it. It's a Chevy 350. Yeah, lots of rust. But other than that, it's not too bad. The 59 El Caminos are a pretty rare car. It's a first year model and only a 1 year body style. And they only made 22,000 or so of them. So not a whole lot. And then the 1960s are even more rare. I think they only made about 14,000 or so of those. And they're a 1 year only body style as well. And then they discontinued the El Camino for 4 years. And then they brought it back in 64 on the Chevelle platform. But these parts are gotten really expensive. Well, right off the bat, you can see I need some headlight housings. We'll take a closer look at this, but maybe I'll take a moment to bring you up to date. This is pretty much a field find. Well, let me take a moment to bring you guys up to date. I purchased this about 5 years ago. I purchased it from a couple off of Marketplace. It was her dad's car, and he drove it around a lot and customized it and fixed it up. It doesn't have the stock grill anymore. That's a custom bar grill, and there's some other things I'll show you later, but it was his hot rod. But unfortunately, he passed away, and the daughter and husband had stored it behind the barn out in a field, and it sat out there for many years. And the river that ran along the property there had flooded, I guess, 2 times over the years and flooded this car. So the bottom side is pretty rusty. But eventually they decided to pull it to the house and start working on it themselves and started to pull it apart. That's why most of the trim and some of the little ornaments and stuff are missing or off of it. They started pulling it apart. Of course, it's pretty rusty, so I'm sure everything started fighting them, and at some point they gave up, and that's when they put it on Marketplace for sale. And I'd watched the price drop a little bit until I got closer to my range, and then I made him an offer and showed up with the trailer and purchased it. Now I did, this was about 5 years ago, and I towed it home, but I did take a couple photos of us driving it home, so I'll put those up there. We got it here and washed it up a little bit and kind of started ordering a few parts for it, and then it's just sat for about the last 5 years. I do have a few pictures of it, also the one with my beautiful wife, showing the interior of this car, which is really nice. But we'll get to looking at that in a little bit here. I want to take a closer look, but I just wanted to bring you guys up to date and kind of tell the history. I did reach back out to the couple later, maybe 2-3 years ago, to try to get some more back history or information, and they didn't really have any more information to give. I was hoping to find an old photo or something like that, but they didn't have any. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing running and get it back on the road. So let's take a few minutes to look at it, and I'll show you a little closer, and show you the parts that we're missing and what we do have and what we're going to need to do, and I guess the plan. So let's take a look. So yeah, like I was saying, it's got all the glass, all the trim. It was missing the beltline trim and the fender ornaments, which as soon as I purchased this, I tracked down and purchased. And like I was saying, the stuff for these 59s is not cheap, super expensive, but was able to get all the trim and the hood ornaments and or the fender ornaments, excuse me. The only thing I'm missing is a stock front grille, which I'd like to get. Now this bar grill is pretty cool, but it does have some damage down towards that end. It's a little tweaked, but I really like the look of the stock grills too. So I'm on a hunt for a stock grill. And something else that we're going to need to get is these headlight housings. You know, I've got the buckets themselves, which are fine, but this housing on both sides is pretty rusted out. And most of them are like that. You know, they're pretty expensive to find a pair that's not rusted out. But be on the search for a set of housings and maybe a stock front grill. And, you know, there's a few dings and dents here and there that we're going to have to try to replace, or maybe we'll just live with it. But for the most part, the front bumper is pretty nice. It's got a few little blemishes, but not too bad. You know, it's got the front balance. All the glass is pretty good. There might be one chip somewhere in the front windshield, I remember noticing. But yeah, it's it's got stock steel rims with well, at one time were smoothie wheel covers and some trim rings, but that is all rusted away. I do like the look of the steel wheels with those chrome wheel covers, so I may show homage to the previous owner and just restore those to the way he had them. You know, this thing's sitting really low. I mean, the tires are flat, but I think this thing is lowered already. Now, the front is sitting a little high because there's no motor or tranny, but I'm sure once we put the weight of that motor and transmission back in the front there, it'll drop it down, and this thing is low, which I like. You know, I wouldn't mind getting an airbag system on this and get air ride, but we'll see where we go down the road with that. But, you know, front bumpers in great condition. Taillights are there. Pretty straight, but you could tell that there is some Bondo in those lower quarters, which is typical. Actually, I saw some spots that look like fiberglass too. So those quarters are pretty rough down at the bottom, and so is the undercarriage. Hopefully the frame's not too bad, but you know, getting it in here wasn't that easy either. The rear end was locked up, and I did pull the rear wheels and brakes apart and freed up the brakes, but the rear end was still locking up, so it's kind of got a mind of its own there. I'm not really sure what's going on there, so we'll have to get this thing up off the ground, get those wheels and drums off, and try to free up the rear end. And you know, like I was saying, I got most of the parts that I need right here in the bed. You know, all the trim, and this stuff is not cheap. I mean, we're talking $100 a piece, every little thing. But we got it all there. This is actually a fuel tank for the Nova. I need to put that in the Nova. But here's a brand new radiator I bought, Classic Industries, I think it was. That's about 5 years ago, still sitting in the box. All the brakes. We got a new clutch, new flywheel. There's the radiator shroud and the headlight bezel and some of those buckets. There's a lot of other stuff in here, like some Nova parts. There's a brand new close ratio steering box for the Nova. I got some new weather stripping for the Nova in here as well. But this parts bin here is full of parts as well. So we'll have to kind of go through everything and see what we have and what we're missing and we still need. Now let's go inside and show you a little bit. Now this door, unfortunately, is a little stuck and it's not opening, so I have to climb through on the other side. I wish I knew more history on the car, like, you know, the previous owner, more about him even. Like, I don't even know his name, but, you know, it's kind of strange taking on somebody else's hot rod that you don't know anything about. But I did learn that this has got an Impala interior put in it. So, I mean, it's got the El Camino steering wheel, but it's got a stainless steel Impala dash trim on there. And I was also told these are Impala door panels, even though the passenger one was pretty rotten. I think it's in the bed somewhere. And I'm not sure about the seat. We'll have to take a look. I'm not sure if this is an Impala seat or the El Camino seat. But it was pretty moldy and pretty bad in here. But we cleaned it up, and I vacuumed it out and threw this blanket over the seat, and it's not too bad in here. It's looking pretty good. It's got all the gauges and knobs and even the original stereo and everything. So, it's a 3 on the tree, and I got the 3-speed transmission. It's just been sitting on the ground for the last 5 years though, so hopefully it's still good. And then I'm not sure what the original motor was in this car, but when I purchased it, he had told me this motor was in it and it came with the car. But after a closer inspection, I know that this motor didn't come out of the car. I mean, they may have been putting it in there, but this has got a flex plate on the back. And they have a set of headers. There's the transmission and a set of headers that were on this motor. That's the carb I sat on there, but that's flex plate. This was hooked up to an automatic transmission previously, and obviously this car is a 3 on the tree. It's still got all the linkages and everything in there, and it's got a set of manifolds and exhaust in there. So well, I'm not even sure of the history or the working order of this motor. He said that it rotated and it was a runner, but I've never pulled it off the stand. I purchased it with it on the stand, and we just put it in the bed of the truck like it is, hooked to the stand, and I unloaded it this way, and it's just been sitting here for about 5 years on the stand. But when I went to turn it over, it wouldn't rotate, and I realized, well, you can't even see in here, but these bolts are actually jammed up against the flex plate that go to this motor stand. So it's actually binding against the flex plate, not letting it rotate. So I don't even know if this thing rotates or anything. So I did look up the numbers though. It's just a real common 010 block, which puts it mid-70s Chevy 350. And then when I looked up the numbers up here on the head, I think it said a 75 Chevy pickup 350. But strange, it's got an old style intake manifold with the oil breather right here in the front, kind of like the older style. So I'm not sure, this is an Edelbrock aluminum intake with the old style oil breather and filler neck right there, but it's a mid-70s block. So we'll have to see if this motor works and the running condition of it, but we'll get it all cleaned up and we'll probably pull it apart and see what's going on, and then we'll get it in here. I'm not planning on restoring this car, but I definitely want to get it, mechanically sound and get it back on the road. We're probably going to roll with the patina look. We'll have to clean it up and maybe rub it down with some patina oil solution. And, I get the wheels restored though, and get it all cleaned up in detail, get all the trim put back on it, get this motor and transmission running and back in there. Now, I don't think the hood springs were hooked up. Let me pop the hood and see what it looks like. All right. Well, hey, I didn't even know it had a battery in there. But yeah, saying there's the two ram horn style exhaust manifolds with dual exhaust with glass packs, and it's got all the linkages and the column shifter for a 3-speed manual, and that's what came with it, was a 3-speed manual. So this flex plate automatic motor setup was not originally out of this car. So I like to run the numbers and see what this originally came with. Like I was saying, I bought a new radiator, and I got the radiator shroud, and I got all new tie rod ends and new brakes and everything for this thing. So we should be able to get this thing back on the road without too much issue, along with all the parts that came with the car and that I've been collecting. I also grabbed some stuff from the wrecking yard. You saw in that one video, we got the roof off of one. I may not need all these parts, but they were given up to me, so I gladly taken them. Also got a rear glass, which are pretty expensive, even though ours is fine. Picking up another one for no charge from Chuck is definitely a score. We got the rear quarters and fins. Now those are pretty rough, but they had a lot of parts I did need that I'm missing, like these interior bed panels. I was missing those on this one, so those are what I originally went after, and then Chuck ended up giving me the rest of this, so that was nice. But they're pretty rough. These quarters are probably worse shaped than mine are. Somebody actually cut the wheel lip out of these, it looks like. Yeah, and they're pretty rough down below. But if there's anything we need as like a patch panel or something, we got these to pull off of. And like I said, we got these quarters with the bed panels next to roof. I don't think we'll need it, but and we also got a fuel tank, which was pretty rusted through, but I took it in case we could patch it. I'm not sure about the condition of the one that's in the car, but as rusty as it is underneath, I'm sure we're gonna have an issue there, and I don't think there's any available online right now. But we also got a few extra parts out of the El Camino, some drums and spindles and a few miscellaneous pieces. So thank you, Chuck, really appreciate it. But I'm still keeping my eye out for anything I could find. They're far and few between for parts, and they're sure expensive when you find them. So if anybody has any leads on some budget friendly 59 parts, let me know. Now, working on this car in this shed is gonna be kind of tricky. Well, first of all, we're on gravel, and I've done it before, but it's not very easy to swap motors in and out of a car with a motor hoist on gravel, because the casters don't like to roll. I do got some plywood down that kind of helps. Plus, this place is pretty tight. I mean, you can't even barely open the doors without them hitting the walls. But I would like to get this shed, working into a functional shop. We're going to have to work on this car in here. So we're going to need to do some work in here as well. So that's going to be some of the upcoming videos, is getting this shop ready to work on the car in here. We're going to have to run a sub panel out here. Right now I've just got extension cords and stuff running out here so we can have some lights, but we're going to run a sub panel out here with some outlets and some lights, throw some insulation up, at least on the ceiling. Well, maybe even put a wood stove in here or some kind of heat source. I've got a little propane heater that doesn't do nothing. And I don't have any doors on the front. I've just been hanging a tarp up there for the most part. So maybe we'll build a set of barn doors for this thing. And we'll get busy this winter getting this thing back on the road. We'll also be able to tear into this motor, like I was saying, figure out if it's good the way it is or if it needs to be rebuilt or what have you. Get this motor and transmission reinstalled in here and get that exhaust hooked up, get the cooling set up. I don't know what the electrical looks like. We'll have to dig into that and see. I did get new U-joints and carrier bearings and stuff for the driveline. But I do believe there is an issue with the rear end, because like I was saying, it was locking up on us. He said when they brought it home, it was free, but then at some point it started locking up, and when I went to go buy the car, we had to drag it onto the trailer. The rear end was locked up. And then when I got it home and pulled it off the trailer, it started rolling. So I thought it freed up, but then once we got it out here to this property, it was locked up again. So I got it up, pulled the wheels off, pulled the drums off, and freed up the brakes, which I assumed was the issue. And put the wheels back on it, and it was rolling free for a little bit. But then when we went to put it in here, they were locked up again. Neighbor helped me with his tractor, and we drug it in here, but the back end was dragging. So if the brakes are free and it's still locking up on us, it kind of concerns me with the rear end, you know, especially the fact that this thing had flooded by a river. I don't know what the rear end housing is going to look like inside there. So we're going to have to, I mean, this thing is low. I can't even barely get my jack underneath it. So we'll air up the tires and get this thing up on jacks, get the wheels off, and start going with the suspension first. That's what I'm thinking. Get the spindles and the wheels rolling, and we'll go through the brakes and some of the suspension, and then we'll tear into this motor, and then we'll have another classic back on the road. I guess we do need to dig all this stuff out and look through it and see what we got, because now I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I've got any hood hinges. I don't know if it came with any. That's one thing I think I may be missing still. You know, so I'll need to put those on the list. Alright guys, that's about it for this video. Now I'm super excited about this car. I hope you guys are too. You know, we're going to get this thing back on the road. We're probably going to roll with the patina look, but get all the mechanicals running good. Then hopefully we'll get an air ride system on it and we'll be cruising. Now make sure to leave in the comments any tips or advice on how we should build this. And if you have any leads on parts, I'm always looking. You know, this is a pretty rare car, and I feel super blessed to own one. Even as rough as this one is, we'll get it back on the road. And I appreciate all you watching. And make sure, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, to hit that subscribe button. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to all my members. Thank you. It's your monthly membership that's going to help me get this back on the road and allow me to do what I do here on the channel. So thank you. And if you haven't joined the membership yet, please consider doing so. I really appreciate it. So be sure to stay tuned for the upcoming videos on this car, as well as the other projects. And we're going to do the garage build as well. So until next time, peace.